C'est bon? Okay. Okay. One of the things about writing a scientific article is that you think it's over when it gets published. And of course, it is not. Because, first of all, it's supposed to be read by somebody other than your mother, and it's supposed to have some consequences. And the so what is what often scientists forget. Okay? You'll go all the way to, for example, you guys will go all the way to your results, and you're focusing on what you actually found, and you go to the discussion based on exactly what you found. And it's very easy to forget the so what. And that's very important because that's a real world consequence. Now that it's in print, it starts to live its own life. So what? And this little exercise has come about because, of course, there was a publication, and of course, there was a reaction. But the reaction spun so much out of control that I could not have designed a better ethical role play if I had tried for years. Okay? And this one is, in a way, rather unique because there are so many partners, and I can just adjust the roles down and up, depending on how many of you there are, because I can just divide some things. But now, this is to give you an implication or an idea about how broad these real-world consequences actually are. And so this is why this exercise is developed, and so you all take your roles. And please live those roles because literally people's livelihoods did depend on this. And literally it felt as bad as it might. It felt as... Sorry. Disturbing noises outside. It felt as intense as some of the things you've probably seen. So just to begin, okay, this is about the infectious salmon anemia and Vike et al.'s article and the consequences there. So where's the group that is representing the authors? Where are you? There you go. All you innocent academics up there. And you found out, yeah. And then we've got the Akkogen. Where have we got Akkogen? Ah, there we go. And the Norwegian Council for the Research Misconduct. Ah, excellent. And then the CERMAC, where are you? Okay. The Cohen Commission. Excellent. Ah, it's even got you in it. Great. And then the environmental groups, where are you? Aha! We're in good form. Yes, and the University of Bergen, where we got you? There, okay. And FHF, or the National Fish Research, over there. Okay. And then the Chilean Aquaculture Industry, where we got you. Sinking fast. Yeah. Okay. And so as it says there, we know we're doing 2 rounds, so you'll each state who you are and a bit about your background, and then we'll get into it. So first up, the authors. Okay? Yeah, as you will. As you will.
My name is Erika. I'm the first author of the paper. I did I got my degree at Tromsø University, where I took a master in aqua medicine and fish health. Then I started working with EU Foods,
Yeah.
which is a company that produces and sells fish food. I did my PhD on the infectious salmon anemia from the virus in Chile. And then I started working for Mainstream Chile 1 year into my PhD. I finished my PhD in the summer of 2014 and started working as a general manager for PharmaQ Analytic AS since 2013.
Right, yeah. So 5 years after the article was published, she got her PhD. Yeah. And she'd been working in Chile. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Are Nylund. I'm a professor at UIB. I work at BIO and I specialize in fish illnesses. And I was a co-author for this article.
Mm.
I'm Stia Nylund. I have a master in molecular biology here from the University of Bergen. I also have a PhD from 2012 where I focused on gill diseases. I'm a researcher in fish pathology with a focus on the molecular biology. And I'm familiar with the wide section of the molecular and laboratory techniques and routine laboratory, and worked with fish pathogens, viruses, and bacteria.
Okay.
Yes, and now I work as a R&D manager, PCR, pharmacoanalytic with Siri.
Okay, yeah. So you guys have held together despite all this. Right. Aquagen?
Here we are. Hello everyone, we are Aquagen. We sell and provide virus-free fish eggs around the world. Well, certain countries. In particular to Chile, we have a lot of business with them, worth a lot of money. And we are jointly owned by two large companies, Cermaq and Marine Harvest.
Now?
Yes. Yes, that sums us up.
Yeah. And anything more about the business? Right, okay. Then the next one then is the committee. There we go, yeah.
So we're the Norwegian National Committee for the Investigation of Research Misconduct. And we're basically 7 members with 4 members who are appointed by the Ministry of Education and Research. And each member takes care of each different research avenues and topics. And we basically get cases from like UIB who are too detailed or get too much public attention for them to cover.
Right.
So we take care of those more detailed things.
Yeah, and the remit of the National Commission is to assess allegations of serious research misconduct and issues a statement on whether any research misconduct has occurred or not.
The Commission is expected to give advice to individuals and/or research institutes, and to be a kind of knowledge base for questions and experience concerning research misconduct in Norway and other countries. The Commission is cooperating with similar organizations abroad. On a national level, the Commission cooperates with the National Committees for Research Ethics, especially on preventing research misconduct. The Commission staff, so far, 1 person is based in the same building as the staff for the Research Ethics Committees.
Any more? No? That's good. Okay, and then Cermaq? Marie?
We are mainstream, but 6 years in the future we will be called Cermaq.
Yes.
We are an international fish farming group with our head office in Oslo. We have operational companies in Chile, Canada and Norway, and we are partially state-owned. We are one of the largest players in global salmon farming industry, and our vision is to be a global fish farming company in sustainable production of salmonids. We aim to reduce the environmental impacts of our operations through sustainability principle for environmentally friendly production of food.
Nice little advertisement. Good. Common Commission, please.
Hello everyone. We are Cohen Commission. Cohen Commission is a judicial inquiry funded by Canadian government in 2009, which looks into the decline of sockeye salmon in Fraser River, located in British Columbia. British Columbia Supreme Court Justice Bruce Cohen was assigned commissioner. Therefore, the commission named the Cohen Commission. What is worth to mention is that we have the power to compel witnesses to appear, compel witnesses to testify under oath, treat any deliberately false answer given by a witness as a perjury, and compel a witness to produce specific documents.
Right, so not only are you charged with finding out the facts, you can make people come to you, you can make them give you the documents, you can make them tell you what they want to know, what you want to know, and if they lie, it's perjury and it's a crime. And it's supported by the federal government, looking at the impact on the West Coast salmon. Okay. And then the, where'd you go? The environmental group.
Yeah,
Oh, there you are.
we're environmental group situated on the Canadian West Coast and very focused on how the salmon farming has influence on wildlife in British Columbia. And we say that salmon farming jeopardizes sustainability and safe seafood production, and the conduct of the aquaculture industry is a hazard to the health of the global ocean and the health of consumers and the health of coastal communities and fisheries around the world.
Okay.
And it poses threat to the work in itself as well.
So it's, you're rather tame for an environmental group, relatively speaking.
Try to be informed.
Yes, yes. And you're, in fact, one of the leaders is repeatedly in the British Columbia Supreme Court, so knows the legal system quite well. Yes. And then University of Bergen, where are you? There you go.
Okay, we represent the board of the Institution of Biology here in Bergen, the University of Bergen, and are the institution where the co-workers work.
Yeah. You want to say anything about the size or whatever? No?
Yeah, we're big. We're really big. We have, I don't remember the numbers because we're so big, 16,000 students, employees, and students together. And of course, we're the leading university at the west coast of Norway when it comes to marine science, etc.
Yes. Okay. And then FHF, or the Aquaculture Research, the Industries Research Fund. There you are. Okay, good.
Yeah, we're the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Union's Research Fund, or FHF, which is much easier to say. We're the Norwegian seafood industry's tools in managing the industry's investments into industry-based research and development. And our objective is to create added value for the seafood industry. And our board consists of 7 members, which are appointed by the Ministry of Fisheries and Coastal Affairs, and is comprised of representatives from the industry.
Anything about the amount of money you have?
We don't say.
Why?
We don't want to say.
So, over 100 million a year, I would say. Yeah.
We don't want to say.
Oh, you don't want to, it's that bad? Right, okay, and then finally, the Chilean industry.
All right, so hi everyone. So on behalf of the Chilean aquaculture industry, we brought 5 employees here. Yes. So as a representative, I was employed at a salmon farm, and now I may be losing my job.
Yeah.
So you may wonder why, and here's our story.
Right. Okay, anything about the size of this, the industry? Just to give us a...
Well, we've lost about $2 billion.
2 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Right.
26,000 people.
Right. Okay. So now we're going to get into it, the real stuff. And it starts with, you know, Celia and those guys being happy. They've published a paper. And then again. Go ahead.
So before this paper was published, we had a meeting with the authors where we told them that there were some factual errors and we would like them to correct before publishing. This was not taken seriously, and so now we don't have any choice but submitting these concerns to the National Committee for Ethical Research. Yes, this is our livelihood, and we don't want this kind of important research to be have factual errors.
Okay. And just to be clear, how much of your livelihood will be affected by this?
We have 100 million kroner contracts to Chile, and with this paper, which is inaccurately pointing finger to our salmon eggs, which we know is completely virus-free. But yeah, but still we will lose our contracts because people are blaming us for something we didn't do. And we also employ 200 people. If we lose 100 million a year, if we lose those contracts, we might have to fire a lot of our workers.
But our claims have some grounds. According to the National Committee for Research Ethics in Science and Technology,
Which is
printed in 2007,
yes.
we believe,
Yeah.
you, dear authors, are in breach of three key rules in terms of scientific research ethics that you are in breach of. First of all, we believe you are lacking quality assurance in your collection material. You've selectively cited your own material in your paper, and you have not given enough credit to other researchers and other papers in this field. And there's a lack of critical evaluation in your research results. So we think they're imprecise, and there's a lack of quality assurance overall. So these are the points by which we are making our claim.
Do you want to answer? Or should we go over to the ethics committee? Do you want to answer?
Well, we can say some things. Well, first of all, we don't believe that we have done serious breach of what's good scientific practice. And we have to remember the allegations are quite serious. This is not just a peer review of our paper. And we don't believe that, of course, there might be some things that you can criticize and some use of terms that might be unclear, but we don't believe that this is deliberately misleading. And when it comes to citing our own work, we have done a lot of work on this, and well, there hasn't been done a lot before by others, but we do cite two other papers that we find very relevant for this study. And yeah.
Okay. So now it's getting a little bit interesting, that back and forth. What about University of Bergen? What do they do?
Well, yes, we did receive a complaint from Aquagen. But as far as we can see, we assume that it's more academically disagreement more than a scientific problem.
Okay. Right. And so it lands with you. And you don't have to read out the conclusion because we still got to. It takes a long time. It takes a long time.
I just think that it's important to start with the definition of misconduct.
Very
if
good.
you're going to ask these questions. The law defines research misconduct as falsification, fabrication, plagiarism, and other serious breaches of good research practice that have been committed willfully or through gross negligence of planning, carrying out, or reporting on research. And it's very important that our commission will look seriously at this very controversial case.
Right. And it is getting controversial now. What's happening with Chile, for example? What's happening in Chile now?
We're so afraid of losing our jobs because
Yes.
the virus is wrecking our fish business, and many big things have stopped the import from Chile because they're afraid the virus will be harmful to humans, but it's not.
When you're saying big things, what do you mean? Be specific, because this was real.
Big
Big,
supermarkets.
yeah, like Walmart. Walmart boycotts Chilean salmon. And they are a huge grocery store chain as well in the States. Anybody else? I think I remember somebody else.
Yeah, it was one more, but I don't remember which one.
Right, yeah. And so, but there's also some mortalities. It's not just that the salmon live there and live with the virus. There's other things. There's mortalities. Now, how much did you lose?
Well, I only have estimates on how many jobs people lost.
Okay, and?
I mean, that can reflect the situation anyway. So
Yeah.
there was 26,000 people that lost their jobs
Right,
in a place where there was low employment previously.
right,
So this is like, you've given them hope and then just crushed them again.
right, yes,
The people there are not living on fish.
yeah. And
So
losing
I have
26,000 jobs? That's huge. Right. Okay, and now the environmental groups start to get interested. And it's starting to turn up in Canada, perhaps. So,
It's everywhere, except for British Columbia. I mean,
or is it?
they're trying to hide, I don't know, the farms in British Columbia are trying to keep the government away from investigating British Columbia, the farms, and we think that's something suspicious. Ever since 2010, they haven't allowed anyone to take any samples. So maybe they're ashamed of something.
Right, no
And
sampling.
especially trying to push away scientific findings that clearly state that the imported eggs from Norway contain the ISA virus. There must be something definitely been hidden by the big companies, because otherwise why make such a big fuss about it?
Right, so you believe, Vike et al., there is vertical
Yeah,
transmission, yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, scientifically
Yeah.
proven. Yeah.
Right. Very interesting. Okay. And then, for example, let me see. Cermak, how are you doing so far? Yeah?
Yeah, basically we are basically concerned with the losses of the jobs and the economic and the social aspects, which is a consequence of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And basically we are interested in sustainable agriculture, and to make this sustainable agriculture, the industry should be free of virus, and if it has to be free of virus, this transmission route has to be discovered, and it has to be studied.
Mm-hmm.
And for this, we have supported the author to do the research, and we are quite sure they have done their jobs.
Mm. How much more will you support the authors? Will you hire a lawyer to help them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will be besides them.
Right.
Throughout
And you're a big player in the industry, and you have a lot of funds that you can play with. And then the question then is, the industry research fund, how are you reacting?
Well, we don't want to comment on specific cases, but all we can say is that we support the researchers that we fund, and further on, it will not be, we will not start any new projects on ISA, but we will focus our research on other diseases which we find to be more theme now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, for example, PD and CMS and HSMB.
Right, so ISA is suddenly not a focus of interest.
No, we will set off 2 million kroners approximately to new research on other diseases.
Right.
But we support our researchers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this worse?
We funded the work of Vike et al. Until the project was terminated, and then the funding will stop, but that's a natural progress, so there's no dramatics behind that. We have just focused our funding elsewhere for the best of the industry.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, in the meantime, did I forget somebody? No? Good. Oh, yes, yes, there we go. The ones who are actually able to do something real here. Yeah,
yeah, we're just interested in following this proceeding because we're investigating the role of this virus in our own decline of sockeye salmon. We've been holding public hearings, inviting stakeholders to come and present their inputs, opinions, and evidences. What we found so far is that the current methodologies that are used to assess, to detect, for example, the virus strains. They are not conclusive enough. So, yeah, we cannot make conclusions based on the results that are presented.
And that includes the publications.
Yeah, because there are different researchers have different methods,
Right.
and many criticisms that can be brought out.
How many researchers are we actually talking about on a global basis?
We've got different groups from, we're working with Nilun. It's one of our key scientists. We also work with a number of scientists based in Canada, looking into different viruses, including this ISA virus in British Columbia. So.
Right. So there's basically there's the group. There's two groups maybe in Norway who can analyze it. There's two groups in Canada who can analyze it. Different methodologies, and we're not sure. Right. But of course, the environmental groups are sure. Okay. Now I'll let you guys bring up the arguments you want, and I won't steer it anymore. Anybody want to come out with some kind of statement right away? Maybe you guys.
Well, we want to ask the authors, why didn't you discuss the possibility of horizontal transmission, and why only focus on vertical transmission in this paper, and avoiding to cite papers that have talked about different ways of this virus to be transmitted?
Well, when it comes to the horizontal transfer, we feel that that was somehow, we did say, suggests ways to prevent horizontal transmission. So we don't feel like we excluded that as a possibility, but we feel that the evidence for vertical transmission is quite clear. And we also have other work that we've done, articles that we haven't been able to publish because we have been paralyzed for 2 years. But I believe we are very.
Explain that paralyzation there.
Well, we have had to spend a lot of time on this and haven't been able to publish anything else on the ISA virus, and we feel as if maybe Aquagen is trying to silence us. I don't know. That's just speculation on my part, but yeah.
Right, and when you're saying
Yeah.
you're spending a lot of time on this, is that answering them, the Research Ethics Committee? Is that what you're answering? When you're saying you were basically paralyzed for 2 years, it wasn't that you weren't doing anything, you were in fact doing something.
Yes, we're very busy with this and having to explain and protect our arguments for our paper, that we haven't been committing fraud or anything like that. And that has meant that we haven't been able to do as much research as we would have liked. And yeah.
So, what's happening here?
You want a conclusion?
No, not yet.
Think more.
Not yet. I kind of want to know how much information went back and forth. Do you know?
Well, we did, excuse me, we did discuss with both Aquagen and the authors themselves, and Aquagen said that they told the authors about the specific information that they could and could not publish. And then we talked to the authors, and they told us that they were never informed with those full details. So in that respect, that's two different sides to a coin. So you have to try and figure out, okay, who has the better evidence for us to be able to make a decision.
We do.
Yeah, right.
And apparently, I want to ask you, for the information that you, when you were
a very new area of research, so there weren't that many articles to use as background information.
But there was other articles.
Yes, there were other articles, just not many.
We can mention one article in particular. It was studied by the University of Prince Edward Island that showed that the virus had actually entered Chile before we started our export. So we believe it's not our fault.
Yeah.
It was actually present there already before we started exporting in '96.
It doesn't matter, does it? It's going to be spread over the world anyway, eventually. So aquaculture is evil to everybody. Every life. From fish to the workers to people who buy these salmon in the supermarkets. They get food poisoning. I mean, what the hell? Someone has to be responsible.
Right, right. This is how it was starting to go. Yes, exactly.
Anybody want to go from that? Stickers. Yeah, we'll add up the stickers and prove
Yes.
it.
And if you don't have enough, yeah. And in fact, that's a very good place to start, because Cermak had a reaction to that too. Oh, there. Right.
Quite the power.
There. Nice. I want them back. These are my last ones. Right. I want them back. Please. Right.
Okay, then give that one to Chile.
That's it.
You're welcome. And you guys had a reaction. You guys had a reaction.
Do you have evidence that salmon farming kills birds? This is defamation of character here.
Yes.
Birds eat fish, right? Right?
Yeah?
So would I just say that people are also dying from food poisoning? From eating these sick salmon?
This is just speculation.
Wow.
There's no evidence that the effects from fish to humans.
Well, there are other diseases that also spread the same way.
But that's not the disease that we're talking about. We are for sustainability fish farming.
We're the good guys.
Yeah.
Everyone can say that.
Yeah.
Right. And, but you do follow it up. You actually charge them and you bring them to court for exactly that, defamation of character. Apropos. Okay. And keep going. Let's see what happens here now. University of Bergen is pretty quiet now.
Yeah, well, as we said, we have people on the house that threw it, and as far as we can see, we just find this academically disagreeing and not scientific.
Right.
We have no further comments, actually.
Right. But now it's being used by the environmental groups as proof that it is Norwegians who are affecting the international salmon industry, both in Canada and Chile. And let's see how things are going in Chile.
Well, so our question is to the industry, though. I mean, the virus isn't that new. I mean, it was in the 80s, right? So why, knowing the impacts this virus could have, especially in a country like Chile, why weren't the eggs screened better? Regardless of the origin, where the virus actually came from, why weren't they screened properly? Because this had devastating effects for us.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You should be asking that question to those that actually brought the diseased eggs to Chile, which was not us. We screen our eggs.
Dr. Rick Rutledge was very worried about.
Okay. And anything more coming up? Come on, guys. If you want to. What have you been finding out in the Cohen Commission?
We actually found that there was ISA virus in British Columbia in the salmon. and as Jasmine said, that it's been used different methods to find out if there is virus. So I'm just wondering what kind of methods you use to find out, to screen the eggs that didn't have this isovirus.
Our lead scientists are not here today. They're stuck in traffic.
I'm also wondering, to the authors, did you feel any supporting from the University of Bergen when you had all this?
Well, to some extent, but I guess we're the ones that are in this mess, mainly. And our careers are at stake.
Yes.
And we feel maybe that if our article had come to a different conclusion, we would never be in this mess, because the small things that you might criticize in the article would never be pointed out if the conclusion had been not as controversial or harming to industry. And I also have to say that we don't actually point any fingers in the article. We don't say that Aquagen sent the eggs, but that's if they're, yeah, if they want to think that, then I guess that's okay.
Okay. Anybody else here? Okay. So we've got the ISA in Canada, we've got ISA in Chile, we've got divergent methods about the results and divergent conclusions. We've got the Chilean industry collapsed, and the environmental groups are sitting there pleasantly quiet right now, but I'm lining up actually some of the stuff. Did any of you watch that film Salmon Confidential? Yeah. Okay, yeah, you watched it. What'd you think?
I don't like it.
Right, neither did I. Neither did I, but it played at cinemas. It played at cinemas, it played in films, and it was here in 2013 at the film festival. And after the break, I'll show you, I'll line up a couple of sections of it. But, okay, so let's see, are we about to wind up, or do we have more things that we want to say? Because you guys have found out more. I'll leave it to you. Of course, the conclusion there and the conclusion there. So it's the Ethics Committee and the Cohen Commission that go last. Anybody else want to say anything that they found out about the group? Yes?
Yeah, as the authors have pointed out, because the paper, they didn't say Aquagen has to be blamed.
Right.
So I would be quite interested why they are blaming the authors for this transmission. Why they are so interested. For me, it feels as if they have done something wrong.
As if Aquagen has done something wrong?
Yeah, it feels like that, because why they have done something like that? Why they are blaming the authors?
Right. What's happening?
Because they didn't say Aquagen.
No, they didn't. But what's happening with Aquagen in Chile then? What happened?
Well, we're the major export of fish eggs to Chile, and when they're pointing at Norway, they are also pointing at us, which means that we're going to lose a lot of money, and of course we don't want to lose a lot of money. So we're doing all the measurements we can to make sure that this doesn't happen,
right?
And that it's not from us. If there's any dead fish, we conduct autopsies to make sure it's not the salmon virus, and also we do
disinfection of the road at different stages, so that we are sure that it can't be from our road.
Right.
Yes.
It's interesting that the proving that the virus is not from you was your second point. The money was your first point.
Well, we don't. Well, we don't completely disagree with the conclusion. We just don't want. We don't want that the industry is going to say that specifically this is our fault.
But if you guys are the main exports of salmon to Chile,
isn't it statistical possibility that it's actually you guys?
Of course there is a statistical
Have you checked
possibility, and that's
every facility that you guys have? Have you screened every single one? Are you pretty damn sure?
We're following fish in every stage to make sure that it's not from the eggs, it's not from smolt, it's not from our fish.
Yeah, and that's also why we want the ethical committee to go through that, so we're sure that all this research is the best research that it can be.
I think that's an important point actually though, also from the Chilean perspective. You see these guys, that it is partially their fault for sending these eggs that may be infected, we think, but also the farms themselves. We know the long history of this virus, and yet the controls weren't there in the first place. Once we knew it was spreading, we had no chance. So, I mean, that's partially the farm's fault itself, which some of them are Norwegian owned, so Marine Harvest and...
Mainstream,
yeah, exactly. I mean, they know the history of this virus, so the control should have been there already.
Right. Now that's an interesting point here, that the controls, and by this you don't mean control group, you mean hygienic controls. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Not really.
Oh. Okay, but for example, one of the places where it hit is called Puerto Montt, and just north of that is a big freshwater lake where they rear smolts, called Lake Yanquiwe, and it's spelled double L-N-A-N, so Lake Yanquiwe. And in there, it's not that deep, but there's got to be, when I was there, there's got to be at least 20 farms with each their own set of cages, very, very close together, feeding by hand and so on. So literally, when you say no hygienic controls, no hygienic controls. And for those who were in the aquaculture course yesterday, we were talking about hygienic controls in the hatchery and changing this and showering the cars before they go into the hatchery area and so on. And there was nothing like that there. So the hygienic barriers at the farms in Chile, interesting. Yeah, right. So you collapsed, but you built up again. Do you remember how?
No.
Hey. That's right. Okay.
We're also curious, like, because we've provided the same source of income for Chile for a number of years, and this, even if we are the culprits here, this one flaw that caused this crash, we still supported you supported your industry for so many years. So in that sense, you think perhaps you'd back us up a little bit, and not.
That flaw was a big flaw.
Right. Okay. And you guys up there, very quiet. Anything you want to say?
Just that any negative press is obviously unfortunate. However, we have decided to just focus our money elsewhere. Again, this is no drama that has nothing to do with this issue. We have funded a project and now we're moving on to newer diseases.
Right. Okay. Well, we're about to wind up. Anything else you want to say? Because no?
Yeah, for the support you mentioned. Actually, I think you have to support, if you want to support someone, you have to support him quantitatively and qualitatively. So, in this case, it's not about just making money. You have to trace what you are exporting to them.
Yeah.
What
Right? Okay. And you'll allow salmon farming to exist or not?
No.
No.
Definitely not. I mean, even if it keeps on existing, then definitely the way it is done has to change, because now there's this large number of fish in this open nets, and this basically breeds disease. If one fish gets infected, then it easily transmits to all of them. And
Population genetics.
And then through the nets, fish can easily escape and get in contact with wild species, and then spread the disease all over the environment. And if there happen some mutations, then it gets even worse, and no one can really say what extent it will end up being. And it's also curious that in the Common Commission, the scientists that were testifying there, that a couple of them found, independent from one another, traces of ISA virus in the salmon, but curiously the one that was the government one, their results were inconclusive. So there is definitely some covering up done by the Canadian government here, and it reeks of conspiracy, really.
In fact, that's what they said, yes. Okay, so, the Cohen Commission? Want to conclude there? Maybe?
Well, based on our findings, we encourage all stakeholders to speak, to present their results and opinions, but we do find that certain stakeholders, they suppress negative findings for fear of damaging the trade. So,
what about ISA? Is it there? Is it not? Inconclusive?
Inconclusive.
Inconclusive. Right.
We do have evidence.
We have some evidence that
Yeah.
ISA is there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also evidence that the strain of ISA that we have in our fish is more closely related to the Norwegian strain than the North American strain. So, most likely, it comes from imported eggs.
Yes. But when they're talking about a cover-up and so on, there's politics and so on. There was a reference lab in Canada. Is that reference lab still got its accreditation? Do you know? It lost its accreditation. The reference lab in Canada lost its accreditation after this fuss happened. So there's only one left. Yeah. Okay. And so, what do we say?
Although criticism may reasonably be leveled at the article, the Commission has come to the conclusion that the points deserving of criticism, neither individually nor taken together, can be regarded as serious according to the criteria of the Code of Scientific Ethics. In addition, the criticism referred to points where there is a certain scope of scholarly opinion and accordingly for scholarly disagreement. Since the Commission does not identify any serious breaches of good scientific practice, it sees no grounds for discussing whether the subjective conditions for misconduct has been fulfilled. The Commission's verdict, Siri Vike, Stian Nylund, and Are Nylund are not guilty of scientific misconduct.
Right. We disagree with this. You appointed experts, and these experts have a completely different conclusion. They're saying that the most serious problem in the paper by Vike et al. Is the conclusion that the results support a hypothesis that ISA virus has been vertically transmitted. The materials and methods that have been used are not sufficient to allow this conclusion, and that there is a serious lack of critical evaluation of certainty in the conclusion. And we find this to be a lot more important, and we are considering to go to the Ministry of the Kunnskapsdepartementet, Department of Education with this.
Right. Is that's current?
2011.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know if they did.
No. Yeah, it sort of died. So, there was also a wording in that judgment about it was not intentional. Right. Wasn't there something there that said not intentional? Ikke med vilje?
That's in the definition of misconduct. And
right, and that's
we saw no sign of willfully carrying out
right, right, and that's a clue as well. Willfully, not willfully doing it. This was Siri's first paper ever. First paper with no writing training at all, and look at this. Look at what happened. So seriously, when I'm thinking about critical reading and critical writing. This is what can come from one paper because you didn't consider what was written in there and how it was written and the so what aspect of what was written down. So when we're trying to train you to be careful about what you write, it's literally for your own good. I mean, it's great entertainment, frankly, and it's a really great, is that your hand raised?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
I just wanted to comment on that because I still find it really weird. Like, however bad job she did, it still got...
It's not bad.
Well, no,
Yeah.
but like, you know, it was his first paper.
Yeah.
It got through her professors, it got through her peer review process, it got published, and then, like, so how does that even happen? Like, that's what I...
Yeah.
If it's that inconclusive, like, if it's that far off from the materials and methods to her conclusion or their conclusion, and how did the professor not see that there was a gap there? And how did he allow her to publish that as a first author and not kind of say, heads up, maybe we should do it differently?
Do you want to answer?
Well, I disagree. I think we have stated in the article that we suggest that this is the best possible explanation, and maybe it's not as conclusive as Aquagen and others have perceived it.
Mm-hmm.
But we are very confident with our conclusion because we also have other work coming up, papers that will be published in the future that will support our conclusions. And yes, we haven't received any comments from peer reviewers or anyone else before this happened that the article had flaws.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how it happens, I mean, of the 3 other articles that you guys looked at, you saw it already, the other articles had, in fact, more obvious and bigger flaws and had passed through without problem. They were published in the peer-reviewed literature and in some of the best journals ever. And the problems that came out of, for example, Stoffel and Lindebad, they were pretty consequential as well. And when you looked at, because you all looked at Vike et al., and it was sort of like, one of you summed it up, 3 stars out of 5. And I'll agree, 3 stars out of 5, medium. But there's a so what element to writing a paper. It starts to live its own life. And the way you formulate things and the things that are sort of in between the lines are things that you have to consider. And so when you're writing, you know, there's also no acknowledgments in that paper. When you're writing, you have to consider who's going to, that general aspect, those general questions that I asked you about, who's going to use this? Why? What will benefit for it? What's, you know, who's paying for this? And the consequences of this little paper spun out, and in fact are still spinning out. You guys had to rebuild from almost nothing with higher hygienic barriers, but apparently not sufficient because it's starting to happen again. Right. And the reference labs for ISA, the Canadian one, the one whose expert was against this group, they lost their accreditation. There's a whole bunch of politics behind that. And okay, I'll take a 15-minute break. I'll line up some things from the film, and then we'll do a run through here. So we'll discuss how this works. So 15-minute break.